Hey, welcome back to the kill screen. If you're not familiar with the kill screen, it's okay, because I haven't really done one of these in like 11 years. So hopefully I can get back on here and do a lot more of these, because I am a huge gamer, and I love reviewing games and talking about games, so I hope to get this show back on track again. But right now I want to talk about PAX South. Just got back from Texas, and one of the panels in PAX South I was really looking forward to was the Friday the 13th game panel. So anyone who's been on Box Office Maniacs, or even my other channel, It Figures, knows what a huge Jason fan I am. So when I heard they were making a Friday the 13th game, of course I'm excited. But I knew nothing about this game. Even when I went to go to this panel, I've kind of stayed away from all the information about the game. Actually, it's not that I've stayed away from it, it's that I haven't really heard anything about it. So going into this panel, I literally knew nothing about the game at all. And I have to say, out of all the panels I went to at PAX, this was probably my favorite panel. The stuff they talk about here is just phenomenal. So if you're a Friday the 13th fan or just a horror game fan in general, I think you will love this. So here you go. This is pretty much the complete Friday the 13th panel from PAX South. I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, it is.
Welcome to the Clonoma 3 panel. No. This is Friday the 13th. So, thank you guys so much for coming out. It's 8 p.m. on a Friday, but I know that your priorities are absolutely right. So thank you again for coming out and joining us. I'm going to first start off by introducing far more talented people than I. Over here from Ilphonic, out in Denver working on it. It is Chuck, and I'm just going to have you do your last name, so I'm going to screw it up. It's Broomgard. One more time? Broomgard. Broomgard. It's a strong, Germanic sounding last name. Good for you. From Gun Media, Ronnie Hobbs. He really, this was his baby. It was in his head. Over here, Randy Greenback. How's it going? And the most metal person that I know, Kevin Gonzalez. I am Luke Martindale. No, I'm Adam Sessler. And I have the privilege, and it truly is a privilege, to be working with these guys on this game. When they came to me at E3 last year, it was...
What hotel?
I think it was the lobby of the Hyatt.
Where I tracked you down and
Yeah, and he just told me what they were doing with the game. It took about 90 seconds. I'm like, yeah, I'm so down for this. This is very exciting. A couple of questions before we get to this. Show of hands. How many of you have seen more than 2 Friday the 13th movies? Cool. Awesome. How many of you guys consider yourself, if not complete experts, like you know a lot of Arcana when it comes to Friday the 13th?
Oh, that's definitely you.
Awesome. And how many of you guys know a little about the game? And how many of you know a lot about the game? All right, good. 8 people. Good. So you're going to learn a lot about the game in the course of this next hour. I want to start off, and Ronnie, you can take this. This game did not start as Friday the 13th. It started as something that was more of an homage called Slasher Volume 1 Summer Camp.
Yeah, for those who don't know our story, all we really ever wanted to do was create a Friday the 13th video game. And like many of you, you can only wait so long, right? So it's been 30 years. And at what point do you just do it yourself? So Wes Keltner and myself, the other co-creator, we put down a plan to create a slasher video game for the first time. There's really not been a slasher video game that's ever, right? We've seen traces of it throughout individual games or certain scenes in games, but there's never been a concept of one powerful killer versus many normal or weak people, right? So, and that was just really the basis. We wanted to do that in a multiplayer setting, and then the light clicked one day, and it's like, this is Friday the 13th. Quit trying to make a campaign. Start in the multiplayer so people can make their own mistakes. So we created an homage called Slasher Volume 1 Summer Camp. We got Tom Savini on board. We got Kane Hodder.
Constantine, the world's greatest makeup artist. If you have seen the original Dawn of the Dead, if you've seen the original Friday the 13th, you understand just the depth of this man's talent.
Yeah.
Also known as the Sex Machine. The Sultan of Splatter. And the Volcano of the Mind.
So we had those guys in, and credit Wes for that. He was able to get those guys and reach out to them. And they said yes.
Kane Hodder, just so you guys know, he was the Jason that probably is the most memorable Jason. 7, 8, 9. Very undead. So you guys brought him on board.
Yeah, so he agreed to do our mocap and play our killer. This was before Friday the 13th. So Savini was going to create some brand new killer. And this turned out that we had Harry Manfredini too as well, who did the audio and soundtrack, and a lot of scores for about 100 movies.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was Slasher Volume 1 Summer Camp. And before we show you the trailer, in case you missed that, well, let's save that.
Let's go ahead.
Slasher Volume.
So this is what the game was in its inception.
Forest green, quiet, tranquil, a nice place to camp. But when the sun goes down, something stalks the forest. On a warm June night in 1984, a group of teen counselors are about to have the night of their lives. No one is safe. No one will survive. Because at summer camp, your sleeping bag will be your body bag.
We were already embracing 80s tropes and VHS effects and tracking and stuff like that.
Yeah, so that was October 31st of 2014 on Halloween, we announced that. And it took off more than we expected. We didn't quite know we were going to get the attention that we did. IGN ran it as drug toy, and everyone seemed to love the idea. It also happens that another person loved the idea and loved what we were doing, and it was Sean S. Cunningham, as you know, the rights holder of Friday the 13th and the director of the original film. He reached out to us one day, and we were a little nervous. We thought maybe we had danced a little too close to the fire, perhaps. But he said, no, I love what you're doing, and you have my whole team already, so why don't you just have this license? We were like, whoa, dude, we're a small team, we can't afford this license. He said, no, you can have it. It's my gift to you. If it'll make your game better, you can have it. So it turns out, we've been waiting our whole life to make this game. Our mentor, almost, without even knowing it, sees the game and gives us the license, which is incredible, and we're all high-fiving each other around the office, and we're having parties, and then this thing's ended, now we have to make a Friday the 13th game. And we're the ones that are doing it. And you can be the biggest fan in the world, but you still have to make the game. So that's...
Well, and with that, with Slasher Volume 1's Summer Camp, I'm not saying the game would be bad by any means, but you're not playing it, you're playing against a much different set of expectations than when suddenly you're presented with, I would say, Friday the 13th, the hockey mask itself is probably one of the most universally recognized images, up there with something like Mickey Mouse. You see the ears of Mickey Mouse, you know what you're getting. You see the hockey mask, you know what you're getting. Something very different than Mickey Mouse.
Yeah. So, you got a hockey mask. So this is obviously part 6, Jason Libb's mask.
For those that might not know, how do you know it's the part 6 mask?
Oh, well, first of all, amateurs. Part 6 has a unique tone. First of all, it has the axe mark that he got at the end of part 3. There's not a continuation on totally. In part 5, they did you get a new mask. I'm bored. I could go on for days about masks.
You really, I've been working with these guys long enough. I actually know a lot about the movies. It is. I thought I knew a lot, and then I met them, and I was terrified. But that's also indicative of what you guys want to bring to the game. That this isn't just, hey, here's a guy with a hockey mask, and there's teens running around getting killed. You really are respecting all the different levels of arcana and mythos and canon that's inside of the series.
And Randy can speak to this and Kettering. Like, if you don't know, Kettering and Chuck run Elphonic. They're our dev studio, and we made one phone call to a studio, a really, really big studio, and we said, would you be interested in our game? And they said, we can't take it on, but we know who to go to. We have the guys, and they said Elphonic. And we called them, and
yeah, I remember getting this email from Wes originally, and he's like, hey, so there's this game we wanted you to work on. It's called Summer Camp. I probably read over the Slasher Volume 1 part, and I'm like, I don't know if you know like the games we kind of work on, but I can't make a kids game, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking like sleeping bags and maybe like s'mores and yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm like, but whatever. I'll look at it a little more, and then I realized the slasher thing and started kind of researching it more, and I'm like, oh wow, like this is awesome. This is a huge deal.
So. I mean, you can look at Kettering and know that he loves horror and metal in general. So when he found out it was Friday the 13th, they were having a big.
I like cats. Cats and kittens.
Cats. I have 5 cats, bro.
No, you like the musical Cats, right? That's kind of your jam, right? I play with cats.
Yeah, we both.
It wasn't good, but it's okay.
So what you're saying is though right. We had all these expectations now. Not only did we couldn't just have a generic summer camp and a generic killer, even though it was created by Tom Savini, we had to do more. We had to put in multiple versions of Jason, multiple counselors. We had to put in Crystal Lake. For the first time, you can walk around Crystal Lake as Jason and murder people, or as counselors and try to escape. So there's a big expectation, and so that's why we went to Kickstarter. And
exactly.
That campaign's long over now. The Kickstarter is, but the slasher backer is still open. But
anyone here donate to the Kickstarter?
I think we have a few people that.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you very much.
It was a pretty big deal. It was a pretty big deal back a month or two ago. So
that was kind of like the entirety. I mean, that was a really strange late October, early November.
Yeah,
like Thanksgiving really became this moment of just like, oh, I'm just gonna have some turkey and take a nap. We're done with the Kickstarter.
Yeah, pretty much. We timed that.
Yeah. But it was, I think we should mention just right now, we do have we're calling it a slasher backer, because it's a pun, but it's really a slacker backer.
Yeah.
I want to quickly speak to where and what.
Yeah, well...
After it happened, I expected someone to do something. I expected parents to show up with questions and concerns. I thought the police would have done more, but nothing happened. Nothing changed.
Shh, quiet. Someone will hear us.
They opened it again the next year, and they were back to their old habits.
Troy, did you hear something?
Relax, babe. Probably just Steve trying to scare us.
They're just kids, right? So was he. He was just an innocent boy. I was a good mother to him. My boy. My sweet, sweet Jason.
Well, actually, thank you for that segue. It's so good. So the Kickstarter ends in November. So really, it's only been a very short period of time as you've started to make that transition from summer camp into Friday the 13th. I mean, how would you describe the process as it's been going now?
Well, Kettering and Chuck, we're lucky to have those guys because they're doing all the hard work. we had the design and did all the pre-production and had this idea for years and years in our head, but it's those guys and his team in Elphonic that have to actually do the work, model the cabinets, create Crystal Lake, spend hours and hours and hours and hours on revisions of making sure each Jason looks perfect. I mean, for our part 3 Jason, we went through how many iterations? And you're probably sick of me right now, but like 40?
I'm so sick and tired of you telling me what yellow looks like.
I mean, I would zoom in on the mask and be like, that hole is not right. It's a centimeter too big. Move that. The jawline's not perfect. There's supposed to be a damage mark in the forehead. I mean, he's like, enough already, right? But credit his team for taking on that role. And if you want to explain what your team's doing right now.
say?
Yeah, if you want to kind of describe sort of what you guys are doing in Ilphonic right now, what you've been taking on. I mean, obviously, you've been working on some JSON models.
Yeah, lots of JSON models. We've been essentially digesting everything from the movies, from like the crazy points where people are in no situations. The problem with the movie is it's a linear experience. Video games are not linear, so players can go do whatever they want, pretty much whenever they want. Movies, you have controlled everything, you know, lighting, gameplay experience, or gameplay viewer experience, everything like that. But in games, it's you got the multiplayer game where a player decides to, you know, teabag your dead body. That's going to happen in every single game from here on out. We have to deal with that. So we have to just try to make sure, especially when we're doing a horror game, how do you make that work in a multiplayer experience?
In a multiplayer setting, right?
Exactly.
So it's essentially a survival horror experience, but with 7 other people with you. So it's both cooperative and competitive, but also individual at the same time.
Yeah. And you know, there's 2 parts of it. One is you have to embrace the trolling and actually incorporate it as part of the game experience. And that sounds weird when you say that, but it's embracing the trolling means how do you make that part of your living this horror experience, and you give the players the control to, in some way, screw each other over, and that's what makes it good. You know, you don't want everyone just to be like, oh, you're my friend. It's like, no, I'm just going to wait till the last moment to screw you over and watch you die. Like, that's awesome. So
it just occurred to me that there are probably people here that don't even know what the real gameplay experience is.
I think that's
we skipped over
fair. So, Ronnie, you want to take it on or do you want me to take it on?
I'll say it and I'll let you take it over. It's basically,
so Ronnie, what is the game like?
It's multiplayer only at this point, but not to keep directing people towards our slash background. People have been asking about single player, and we know I love single player. No one likes to put a game disc in and no servers be available, right? So we're trying to do some single player, and that's some of our stretch goals. But
we're not looking to do a campaign.
No. It would be some single player challenges, probably from a first person perspective. Just one example would be Jason's kicking in your front door, and you're in the Jarvis house, even though that's not really what we're doing. And you have 2 minutes to find the keys or a weapon and defend yourself or escape. And it's all in first person, whereas our multiplayer title is in third person. So it's a completely different experience. It's small scenarios that you can play on different difficulties. So it's a different experience. But yeah.
Because all I would say is, you might get it in your head that like, oh, but I want to play Jason and kill people. That would get so boring so fast. You really think Jason doesn't really, he's never presented with a challenge. Yeah. So it would actually kind of violate quite a bit of the canon. But now let's talk about the multiplayer, because that is the core of the game. And yes, we call it asymmetric multiplayer, but it's not asymmetric multiplayer as you might expect from the few instances of asymmetric multiplayer that have come out.
So it's a 1v7 or 7v1. One player takes control of Jason, and the other 7 control camp counselors, normal, everyday camp counselors, trying to survive the night. And you can be the jock, the nerdy guy, the nerdy girl, the
sporty girl.
Yeah, the athletic girl, and they all have some stats that they're pretty good at, but everyone can do everything. So everyone can swing a weapon, everyone can drive a vehicle, everyone can hide and use stealth. Some may be better at it than others. And that's
everyone can run.
Everyone can run. It's great, but they may be slower or faster.
You can try to run that. You're not going to get anywhere.
So really that. Whereas a lot of asymmetric multiplayer games lock you into a class, and then now you're the trapper, and you have to do certain things, and that's your only job.
Or you're defined by sort of the weaponry or what your kit is. That,
exactly.
Fundamentally, everyone can do everything, but you might be slightly better.
Exactly.
Now, the result of this may be that you want to be kind of near the nerdy guy, because he can start to repair that truck a lot faster. And so, maybe you'll hang out with him, you'll go get the parts, give it to him, he'll fix the truck. Another benefit of the nerdy guy, or being near him, is he doesn't run that fast. So if Jason shows up, you take off first.
Yeah. So, that's really the key, is Randy can talk about all of our different gameplay experiences, but at the core, it is 1 versus 7. The counselors just have to try to survive. And you have to fix vehicles, find parts, find a weapon if you think you're brave enough to fight Jason. Call the cops.
And wait 15 minutes for them to show up.
If you can survive. So you want to work together at the same time. If you're in large groups, you can make noise, and that attracts Jason. Which may be what you want if you want to hide behind your buddy. So there's not a whole lot of games in the market. I can't think of any that really do what we're trying to do.
No, and that's why when I was going out and I was trying to help get people excited about the Kickstarter, that I even strayed away from saying 1v7. Because there really is one V1, 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 because when you're the counselor in the game, the only thing you need to know is that you have to survive. It might be cool if your buddy survives, but that doesn't matter. You want to survive. And that really does change the alchemy, where if you think of, I actually quite like Evolve, but you are functioning as a team. You go into the game together and you leave the game together.
Not our game.
Successfully not. Here, you go in the game together and you just figure out how you yourself are going to get your way out of it. And that really opens up some of the most, and this is why I had to just work on this game, is that it's both challenging and invigorating, because you're really playing a game, a very complex game of hide and go seek, rather than a game of tag, which is so much of the multiplayer that we're so accustomed to.
Yeah, and there are lots of moments in the game, like just a couple weeks ago, where I was playing, I was trying to get all the parts for the car. I was trying to help. We were working as a team. We're all talking about where the other part might be. There are 3 parts on the car. There's a 4th one needed. Jason shows up just as the 4th part is being put on the car. That person gets hacked to bits. Somebody else is chased off and goes running away. And, Jason's occupied. So grab the part, put it on the car, and just run off, right? And leave everybody behind.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the most important things, from a development standpoint, is you're working on multiplayer games for a while. We just kind of learned that, you can't trust people to work together. You can. There's times where you can. You're playing with your friends, you kind of get your strategy, you figure it out, you work together. There's other times where you can't count on that. You have to count on, and it was tough because when you develop games, developers kind of play the games play the way it's supposed to be played. And I think that was the biggest thing we had to go into when we were kind of developing the game was, okay, you're gonna have the guy, the weak link. Like, I might be the weak link player. You might have the guy that's really good, that wants to try to make everyone work together as a team. But sometimes it's gonna happen and sometimes it's not, and you have to have
show you some cool assets. We don't know if you've actually seen any of our screenshots or anything from the game, so we're gonna show you a few in case you missed them.
So we'll start with the key art right here.
Yeah, that's a Part 3 Jason, if you didn't know, played by the late Richard Brooker, but all the hardcore fans know exactly which version.
He's also known as Big Neck Jason.
Yeah, he's got the he's like linebacker Jason, we call him Big Neck. He had in the movies he had a back prosthetic on that you couldn't see because they never filmed him from the side or the back.
Well,
so that's why he looks so big.
If you look in the background, that's the barn.
That is the barn from
Part 3.
But that's not confirmed yet. We don't know if that's in the game.
It's in the concept art.
No one, concept art lies all the time. But yeah, so that was our key art that we released. So Jason from Part 3 has been confirmed. Do you have Sackhead?
I do.
So there's Sackhead from Part 2. He's also confirmed for our game.
And not to be confused with Sackboy from,
Although, if we get team out of Sony, we'll include Sackboy.
Yeah, I love that.
That would be awesome. Each Jason will have his own unique weapon, and there's a weapon in that scene somewhere, but I won't point it out, that he'll have. So that's part of our unlock.
There's something going on here that never happened in Part 2.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, so this kill, which actually got unlocked on our Kickstarter. So this kill that you see is actually from Part 3. Jason grabbed Rick in Part 3 and smashed his head. It's a famous scene where the eyeball pops out, and so we gave it to Sackhead in this one. But yeah, that's on purpose. So yeah, each of our Jasons, we're gonna have multiple Jasons unlock, and actually, we're pretty close to the stretch goal, I think, where we get to unlock 3 new Jasons, and we're gonna let the fans vote on which 3 new Jasons that we want to put in the game. So we have 2, 3, and 7 right now, so that's gonna be awesome to see 3 more Jasons go in. So here's our, this is in-engine, this is our actual game. So some cabins, and of course there's a lake, which you may or may not want to go into. There's a dock, there'll be a boat beside that too. So these are some of our screenshots, and the type of visuals you can expect. It is multiplayer only. There's the Crystal Lake sign, which is very particular, by the way. You wouldn't know by looking at it, but there's a lot of detail there that hardcore fans will know if you leave out, like the waterfall in that little picture. Trust me, you don't leave that out. You'll never hear the end of it.
So Jeff, I'm absolutely looking at these beautiful screenshots, but sort of where is, I'm asking a question I know an answer to, but where is sort of the game right now? It really isn't just kind of in that prototype phase.
We're at the prototype. Well, Kevin, you never really get out of prototype until you...
Especially with multiplayer.
Especially when you're still bringing in funds to fund possibly other features. So you're always going to prototype new features. We do have a prototype build, but we also have a production build. So.
Yeah, essentially what you're seeing is pictures from our prototype. And where we're at right now is we're actually ramping off the prototype and going full swing into full production. So we have crazy amounts of assets being made, detailed all ridiculous levels for murder.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and take a look at this.
You want to start
What is it?
This is one of the levels.
Oh yeah, so this is
Yeah, so this is Crystal Lake, and I think that there's one thing, and even I got caught up in this when I first started with you guys, is we tend to only think of Crystal Lake as the camp, but that's really only featured in the first two. Yes, it's the first two where it is still a summer camp and they're counselors.
Yeah.
But in the later movies, it still takes place in Crystal Lake, but it's a much larger body of water with other edifices and places to stay.
What's awesome is, so there's actually no official map of Crystal Lake, but the hardcore fans have put together what they think Crystal Lake actually looks like. And it's very big. It goes for miles. Part 2, 3, and 4, the films take place within a couple of days. Just because the movie came out a year later doesn't mean that it was 1 year later. So Jason walks from one point to the next in Crystal Lake and actually just starts a murder for each movie. And it's not till the end of 4 when Tommy Jarvis beats him to death with a machete that they actually bury him. And then that's why part 5 is an imposter Jason, but 2, 3, and 4 are very quick, but he's roaming this whole entire countryside of Crystal Lake. So we're incorporating some of that big open world to our multiplayer setting. And this is our generic Camp Crystal Lake that encompasses a lot of assets from all the films.
It's a small part of what would be all of Crystal Lake proper and the campgrounds and everything around it. So.
And we have some other maps planned that are on some stretch goals that we can't wait to reveal. They're going to be so awesome and they're going to be from the films. So can't wait for that.
All right, so maybe we should talk about the part that I imagine many people would want to know about, and that is what is the experience of playing as Jason? Because when you're a counselor, you can run and you can scream and you can try to hide, but Jason, you're a killing machine.
Yeah.
And the baddest one ever.
Absolutely. Essentially, the way to think about playing Jason is kind of a feeling of isolation to some degree, and that's good. Because when you're out there, you have one mission, and that's murder teens having sex.
They may or may not be having sex in our game.
They're not having sex.
But at least they've been thinking about it.
Let's not freak the SRB out yet.
Yeah, he can feel it in the air, and so that gets him going.
It's so common song.
Definitely realized.
In the air.
Yeah. So essentially, whenever you're Jason, the biggest thing to always remember about Jason is he's unstoppable killing machine. He's an absolute pure badass. And a badass and an angry, ridiculous, no one can understand him other than he's going to go forward and just keep wrecking people. I always have my own theories, and when I've been studying Jason so much lately, it's, you know, he's an artist. Really, he is. He's actually he's an artist, and that teenagers are his canvas and their blood. It's his, you know, it's his tools.
He's not kidding, by the way. Yeah. This is something he really thinks.
Yeah, really.
This came up about a week ago.
There may not be some missing persons in Colorado. I don't know.
Don't say anything.
Yeah, right. So, anyways, whenever you're playing Jason, so if that's a big thing, like we didn't try to make Jason be somebody that's like, oh, it has to be this thing that's so balanced that everyone needs to feel like, oh, okay, maybe I have a chance of winning if I see Jason. No, if you see Jason, you should feel like you're about to die. Your chances of living are slim, and that's the experience you have in the movies. That's the experience you're going to have playing this game. If you see Jason come around the corner, you're like, oh, shit. My straw was just pulled, and now's my time to die. Yeah. So you got to run. You got to run. You got to try to hide. Because you didn't play your cards right. You're making too much noise. You're doing too many things or something. Or maybe he just went down the Rolodex of, I'm going to kill that guy. I'm going to kill that guy. And you're just the next one, and you're going to die. That's playing Jason. And the biggest thing is we had to make sure Jason had the abilities not only to make it so counselors you still have a chance, you still can have fun, but make sure it's not, you know, so insanely OP that you're just, okay, you come in and everyone wants to be Jason because you know you're going to be the one that's just wrecking house. It's, again, like what you're talking about, it's a hide and seek effect. And it's really worked out well in a prototype. People, when you play as Jason, you have fun, but it's an isolated kind of feeling. You have your powers. You have multiple amounts of powers that allow you to get around the map quickly, find counselors, hope you track them down. But, you know, there is still a chance that if you're that bad of a player, you're going to let all the counselors escape. But, I mean,
what I found is that when you're playing Jason, you're probably going to kill someone.
Yeah.
Or you're going to kill everyone. It's an interesting way in which you create challenge where, say, everyone can get one counselor.
It's like the first time Adam killed me, it was ridiculous. First time we caught him in the game, I was like making fun of him on the team chat. And I was like, oh yeah, Adam's not gonna get me. And I ran out around the corner and he's right in front of me. That was the first one to get killed.
I cleaned up. I was so happy with myself.
Yeah, especially killing Kevin first. That was awesome. Because Kevin's like, oh, Adam's Jason, I'm cool. So Kevin starts dicking around over there, and all of a sudden he says,
down the path.
Kevin died. That's like awesome. Yeah, that's really Jason, and he has multiple powers he can use to track you down. But like Kevin said, he's an unstoppable killing machine, but at the same time, in the films, he does die. But it's only it's buried in the movie by very, very powerful people who kept their composure, and that's a big part of our game with the fear system. So certain counters, like the girl next door, perhaps, she might be able to have better composure, which is going to keep your fear meter down, and you'll have a better shot at killing Jason. So it can be done, but like Kevin said, you should never look at Jason and think, oh, I'll kill him. I can do that.
Yeah, I'm just going to stand here and take
It's
him off.
fight or flight at that point.
No, it's flight.
Yeah,
It's flight.
unless you have a weapon and you've done the right things to get to it. So, yeah, you want to show. We do have something awesome to show.
Yeah, so I was going to say, one of the things you're hearing about this, the game as we've been testing it out is still in, I would say, a crude form, just to kind of figure out the balancing. Because
we're not alpha, but we're not beta.
But there are, that's all Friday the 13th is slowly coming in, and that has to do with what you guys were doing last week, right, with Kane Hodder, which was the mocap
of all the
for the
Savini
kills, of all the Tom Savini designed kills. And then before we show it, one of the coolest things that Savini is doing in designing the kills for the game is he is a practical effects artist. I mean, half a lot is practical, but of course it's a video game, so it's completely digital. But he is adamant that every kill that happens in the game is something he could create using practical effects in a movie to give it that sense of grounded. So it still has to respect the laws of physics.
Sometimes less
and some degree of logic. Yeah. So we have some clips of Kane Hodder.
Highlight video, I believe.
Yeah, we do.
Let's take a look.
So, real quick, I'll just set it up. So we went out to Venice Beach, California, out to Digital Domain to record all of our motion capture, to get all of our animations on and recorded and ready for the game. So who better to enlist than Kane Hodder, right? So let me talk about this dummy real quick. So while we're out there, we had this mannequin that was clearly going to get wrecked, right, during this whole 5-day shoot that we had. So over time, we started playing with it, and we started toying with it. We started dressing it up. They put googly eyes on its head, and then Tom Savini chimed in over Twitter and said, its name is Freddy.
So yeah, a little backhanded stab. Yeah, so we named him Freddy. That was pretty awesome. So say what you will about Freddy, but Jason, Kane Hodder himself, was throwing this guy around, ripping its head off, ripping its arms off. It was quite hilarious. So,
look some more.
What's up? You want to tell everyone who that girl is? That's Tara Page. If you played any of the last 2 Tomb Raider titles, she's the one responsible for playing her in the game. All the incredible animations and stunts, she's her.
So she played the female counselor, all of our female counselors.
She was awesome in this thing.
So as you can see, Freddy returned. His hands are about to get ripped off in the scene, and his googly eyes are there. And trust me, he got shook. They shook the shit out of him every day.
Without that.
So during the mocap shoot, Kane put on the mask again, and it was like his return.
And that's his mask from the film, from part 7, actually. He still has it.
Yeah, if you're telling me pointing out, and I learned this when I was shooting the Kickstarter video with you guys, Kane Hodder is a little method in the way that he approaches Jason.
He choked you out.
Yeah, he choked me out. He actually asphyxiated me. And he realizes to really sell some of the strength of it, that some pain will be felt by the poor mocap artist that's on the receiving end of his abuse.
Yeah, so we'll have some photos here first, but then we'll actually show you the video of Kane being Kane and poor Tara and the other guy. His name escapes me, but he was great too.
Oh, Ryan.
Yeah.
He did a very good job too. He died many, many times. So here we go. top part of the skull.
And there's no reason not to spoil this. That's a wall in our game. So be careful which wall you hide beside.
We didn't have to do it, but like, why not have the wall?
Yeah, because we could. And there's Wes. He's about to. Oh, this is going to get weird.
Everybody had their hands on Freddy.
There we go.
That's what it turns into. Tara's very flexible.
Yeah. And then he takes the
You
leg.
have to wonder what the Foley artist is going to be like.
But then he takes the leg and walks away with it. Just so you know what's happening here. They're driving a vehicle. They think they're safe. Oh, he just scared her.
Little outtake. What is that? The bloody swirly.
So don't hide near the toilet. It's never a good idea anyway. And don't sit in the chair either.
So those are just temp
Yeah, these are all temp assets too.
But those are happening real time.
Yeah, on the screen.
That's really cool.
Yeah, we can watch the feedback real time and.
This one's quite.
Oh, this is so awesome. Poor Tara, and she was so flexible with that, man. Yeah, that's going to be a good one. I won't tell you what that object is, but you'll see it in the demo game.
So all this was happening in real time. We were watching it on the rigs, on the models. Oof.
She may or may not have something sticking through her chest.
So around day 4, day 5, people started getting silly.
Were all of these planned out ahead of time, or was there some inspiration at the moment?
Despite him using this dummy, this was Jason can grab you. Yeah, this is
Somehow a hoverboard appeared.
once you hit level 50.
It's millennial Jason.
Once you hit level 50, you get to unlock this guy.
He's not quite so kind of fear. If he threw a rock in front of one of his wheels, he'd tumble.
That's good.
This is what you all came for right here. Everybody's favorite kill. And this is actually where Kane was injured.
Yes! Sleeping bag. For those who don't know, this is from Friday the 13th, Part 7. It's the sleeping bag kill. It got voted everyone's favorite Friday the 13th kill. And it was unlocked on our Kickstarter campaign, so...
Kane told the story of actually doing it in the movie.
Yeah.
And both because it was very cold,
He had
prosthetic
fun.
hands he had, to try to hold on to that sleeping bag in the movie was actually incredibly challenging for him.
And what's cool is like these are only just a few kills. We were there for 5 days, and we saved a lot because what Tom Savini, what his mind is able to do, sometimes can't even be replicated in the game world. But man, there's a lot of brutal kills.
Yeah, hours.
If we get hours of half of this stuff, it'll be a miracle.
It's really their one big thing that they have against Jason is they have numbers, right? They can occupy him, and they're burning his time. They're burning his powers. And if everybody can do slightly better than the last game they played, they can throw Jason off.
Yeah, and tell me you don't want to kill that middle dude. Tell me you just don't want to punch that dude in the face.
As somebody who grew up in the 80s, the sweater over the shoulders has always fascinated me because it gives me the impression that you can't put on clothes. And I'm like, I'm not, maybe I'll just do this and no one will notice.
I mean, nothing against the Alabama football team, but tell me he's not the starting quarterback with that hair. They all have that perfect hair that's like you come over and it's just perfect, and you want to kill him.
Yeah,
he's a
trooper.
Jason. And just for a little trivia, most people think Jason's mask was white. It wasn't. The lighting in the movie washes it out. It makes you think it's white. It's actually, it was dipped in this clear coating to give it this yellowish tint. And if you zoom in on the battle marks and then the cracks, that wasn't because a counselor hit them in the face. Over time of shooting the movie, it actually broke down. You see a lot of cracking on the mask, and that's why he had those awesome marks on his mask. You can't really see those in the film except in a few certain scenes if you zoom really close. So all of those marks are perfect, or as perfect as we can get. You can see how they would hold the mask on the nose a lot. You can see there's a white spot there. That's the actual mask underneath, but all the yellow coating was a protective film. A lot of people don't know that. So every generic Jason mask you buy in a store, it's always white. And I'm the guy that looks at it and shakes my head.
Yeah. That's why this is the nerdiest game ever.
You wouldn't know it by looking at it. But we spent a lot of time on that mask and just getting on the hole placement right. You can notice the top left, if you're looking at it, that top hole is not quite, there's more of a distance from that top hole and the second hole. That's for a reason. That was a mistake in production. So we had to have that as well. But anyway, that's our Part 3 model. And
but when the mask comes off, like we've already
they have his face underneath too.
They've already modeled the face as well.
Yeah. So anyway, that's our Part 3 Jason. And there's his face underneath. So you can knock his mask off. That has been confirmed. What that means in our game, we won't tell you yet. So yeah, there's some cool shots of him in Part 3. Man, if we hit those other Jasons and unlock that stretch goal, it's going to be awesome.
He's like a young Richard Gere.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay, so
there's just some questions.
Hey,
there it is.
so are y'all looking into any sort of procedurally generated, like weapon placement, vehicle placement? Just because I think it could become an issue, like, oh, I know where the car is every single time.
That's a big issue, trust me.
And so most of our levels are based off of the campsite, so you know where the campsite areas are in the trees. But all the building layouts, the buildings that are there, for the most part, except for very few hero buildings, almost all of them are randomized. So the layouts inside, the rooms inside, the items placed, every single time you play a new match, they're all completely different.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, it's very important to everything has to be random as much as we can. That's a very, very important part of not making the map scale. So yeah.
You're gonna excuse my voice, it's kind of coming
It's okay.
back.
Too much partying last night. I know that's nice.
First of all, I want to say that art looks awesome, by the way. KILLSCREEN was really rocking it. But from a dev perspective, how are you kind of like tackling like the cheap scare, kind of thing that like kind of happens in some horror games?
Yeah, well,
obviously it's a very different, kind of horror game. But like, are there going to be things like limbs snapping just as a sound effect in the woods, or is it going to be like more so, Jason is there every time you hear the limb snap?
Well,
audio
plays a huge part in the game. Obviously, it's a horror game, right? And so there are those jump scare moments just from the sound effects that are going off around you. Another counselor could be coming out through the woods, through the bushes, and rattling them, and all of a sudden emerge, and you freak out, right?
Yeah.
But Jason has his own tools. Like we were talking about Jason's powers, right? So we've given Jason tools to create some of those jump scares as well. Like, everybody who's seen a movie sees those moments where Jason just he's pursuing. The counselor thinks that they lost him, and then they take a break for a second and pop! Right up in front of their face, right? So Jason can do stuff that recreates those moments, those jump scare moments, directly from the movie. So we feel like the players have the tools they need in their hands, both on the counselor side and the Jason side, to make their own little mini horror movie.
Yeah, let me just say, you obviously know this because psychological horror is 10 times better than a single jump scare. Okay, that you're comparing Silent Hill 2 versus Resident Evil 4. Right. You're comparing Fatal Frame to Doom.
Yeah.
Okay, jump scares are good for 5 seconds. The less jump scares you have, the more painful it is for the player. So if you played Alien Isolation, Silent Hill 2, or Fatal Frame, and they're our favorite games ever, You know that sound plays a big part.
Building.
Seeing the enemy and hearing them coming is a lot different. So we want to do both. Hear them. I mean, the alien is just playing alien isolation. You don't even see the alien before you hear it. You're scared to even look, right? So we have a nice mixture.
Constant dread.
Yes.
That's awesome. That's so good.
How's it going, guys?
Good.
I was very looking forward to the game. Looking forward to my Machete Steel Case Collector's Edition.
You got a big backer there.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
My question is, sadly last year we lost Betsy Palmer. So I was wondering if there was any plans for DLC for a Pamela Voorhees.
We struggled with this question. We actually had her as an unlockable in our stretch goals, but we struggled with that. Everyone wanted her in our game, but we felt if we put her in our game, we were going to be distasteful, or we would be the ones doing it just to try to. It was a weird thing to think about, but we did want to include her. I think that stretch goal was way out of reach, but you never know. We thought it would be cool to have her as a playable character and just not let her have any powers and just let her walk around with a knife. And it'd be like the hardcore mode, right? Yeah. If you could win with her, you would be the best player on Earth. So that's always a possibility. But she couldn't morph. She can't do those things. She used her brain, and this was always in the right place at the right time. But yeah.
She knew where the humping was happening.
She did.
Like, that footloose kid is at it again. I'm gonna get it.
So last guy took my question.
Okay.
So here's my next one. When this game comes out and it's a huge success and everybody's playing it, would y'all be looking towards other horror movies to do as well? Because I know, as a big fan of horror movies myself, I'm sure y'all are as well, something that I would like to see that I could see this format working in would be for John Carpenter's The Thing.
Well, The Thing's an awesome game. I love the PS2 version. So did Randy. Yeah. Like, I remember playing that game. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, earlier when the panel first started, Adam said Slasher Volume 1 Summer Camp. That was not an accident. But now the plans may have changed some. But we definitely, my favorite horror movie is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Nothing would make me happier to be able to work on a game like that. But the team all has their own favorite horror movies, and
just real quick, there's a huge playground to play in Friday the 13th. We could live there and play there for years and years, and not run out of source material, not run out of cool things to do. Yeah. And so our focus is firmly planted in the Friday the 13th franchise. But when we go to sleep at night, we dream.
Yeah, we're dreaming.